Hi, and welcome back to the Grow Your English with Jamie podcast, where we explore language, life, and culture while helping you grow your English. And I'm Jamie, a former university lecturer in phonology and now a British English pronunciation coach online. And as always, you can download the full written transcript for this episode with vocabulary notes for free at growyourenglish.com. So, are you ready? Then let's begin. Episode 2. Perfection is killing your progress. I want you to imagine a scenario for me. You're at a job interview and you're well prepared, getting asked easy question after easy question. And you think to yourself, this is going amazingly. But then, all of a sudden, you get that one question, the one you've been dreading. What's your biggest weakness? And your mind starts racing. What do you say? Do you admit a real weakness? Like, I get distracted easily, or I take long toilet breaks to avoid small talk with my colleagues. Or do you go for a sneaky answer with a strength disguised as a weakness? Well, for me, like many people, I've always done the latter. And my go-to answer, also like many people, is my biggest weakness is that I'm a perfectionist. Because surely aiming to be perfect is a good thing, right? It can't really be a weakness. A perfect job, a perfect house, perfect skincare routine, perfectly posed holiday photos with your perfect partner, while wearing perfectly matching pajama sets, of course. Everyone wants to be perfect, don't they? Well, according to science, aiming for perfection isn't quite as positive as we think it is. And that's what I want to explore today. In a world obsessed with perfection, from our careers to our body image and even our language skills, is chasing perfection actually doing us more harm than good? Where better to begin than with a definition? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, perfectionism is the desire for everything to be perfect. And a perfectionist is someone who behaves in line with that desire. Interestingly though, the word perfectionist dates all the way back to the 1650s. But back then, it referred to someone striving to live a life that was free from religious sin. It wasn't until 1936 that the Austrian psychotherapist Alfred Adler used it in the psychological context as we know it today, when he used it to describe his patients who compare themselves with the unattainable idea of perfection. And since the 1990s, the usage of the word perfectionism has exploded in books, articles, and research. And honestly, that's no surprise. Just look around you. Celebrity culture, retouched images, intense competition at work and at school. Even on our personal social media feeds, we're bombarded with the highlights of real people living their supposed best lives. And in this kind of climate, comparison becomes almost automatic. And this pressure is especially intense for younger people. According to the British researchers Stober and Madigan, about 60% of adolescents now show perfectionist traits, and 78% of university students report feeling intense pressure to succeed. The same study, unsurprisingly, also found a strong correlation between perfectionism and high levels of anxiety and depression. And I'm guessing you can probably relate to some of these feelings, that sense of comparing yourself to some impossibly high standard and ending up stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and maybe even procrastination. Like, why should we even start doing a project if we're not able to do it perfectly? So, here's the big question. How do we reverse this situation? Well, let me start off by sharing something personal, because I've definitely had my fair share of perfectionist behaviours. At this point, I'd probably describe myself as a perfectionist in recovery. And my perfectionism became especially harmful when I was creating my first online pronunciation course. This course was something I dreamed of making for years, so naturally, I wanted it to be thorough, well thought out, and genuinely helpful for people. So, of course, I tried to make it the best I possibly could, and I kept refining it. But the problem came when what started as 1 week of refining it turned into 1 month of refining it, which then quickly turned into a year and a half of refining it. I simply wasn't able to finish making it, because to me it was never quite good enough. There was always something else I could add, and always something else I could improve upon. It was never perfect. And that pressure eventually started to take a toll on me. So, how did I break the cycle? Well, actually, thanks to a fantastic book. And no, this isn't a paid ad, by the way. And the book is called Finish, Give Yourself the Gift of Being Done, by Jon Acuff. And yes, I did actually finish reading the book. But this book really unlocked something in me. Once I read it, everything started to click into place. The author of the book found, time and time again, that the most effective goal-setting strategies are never the ones that push us to work harder or to do more. They're actually the ones that remove pressure from us. And when the pressure drops, our progress skyrockets. Let me share one of the stories in the book that particularly stuck with me. On the first day of the semester, Jerry Ullsman, a professor at the University of Florida, divided his photography students into 2 groups. He decided that one group would be graded on quality, so they had to submit just 1 photo, their best photo, by the end of the term. And he decided that the other group would be graded on quantity, so they were marked purely on how many photos they took during the semester. And by the end of the course, the results of the jury were unanimous. Every single one of the best photos of the class, without fail, came from the quantity group, not the quality group. And why was this? Well, because the group that were focused on quantity weren't paralyzed by the pressure of taking that 1 perfect photo. So, the bottom line is simple. The more pressure that we put on ourselves to be perfect, the worse we do. But when the pressure to be perfect is off, we actually perform much better. And even if you've never felt this pressure to be perfect in your work life or your personal life, I'm sure that you've felt it in your English skills. Let's be honest, it's hard to scroll through Instagram these days without hearing, speak like a native, use these 3 phrases to sound native, don't do this if you want to sound like a native. But the problem with constantly comparing yourself to a native speaker, which, by the way, is someone who's been immersed in English for as long as they've been alive, is that this sets an unrealistic standard. It creates pressure to be perfect. And as we've already seen, the pressure to be perfect usually doesn't end well. It pulls us away from reaching our goals, not towards them. One quote that encapsulates the main idea of this episode is the following. As the famous English author Voltaire said in 1750, "Perfect is the enemy of good." Just kidding. Voltaire was actually French, but we did steal his quote and translate it into English. But this word, perfect, is a curious word in English. When it's used as an adjective, just like in Voltaire's quote, it means completely flawless, and the first syllable is stressed. Perfect is the enemy of good. But when it's a verb, so to perfect something, it's the second syllable that's stressed. Perfect. Listen to that difference. It's perfect versus to perfect. And this change in stress for adjectives, nouns, and verbs in English is somewhat common, by the way. But the verb to perfect can actually signify something rather different. It means to keep improving, to make progress, and to keep getting better. So, I propose that instead of trying to reach this impossible state of being perfect, the adjective, what if we simply allowed ourselves to perfect our skills and habits, as in the verb, instead? So, to focus on our progress, not our end result. To focus on our consistent actions, not unrealistic and unhelpful comparisons. And I reckon that if we allow ourselves to focus on the actions we're taking and the progress we're making, then just like those photography students, we can actually end up much closer to reaching all of the massive goals that we have. Much closer than we ever could have done by focusing on a state of perfection that's actually impossible to achieve. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And if one of your goals is to perfect your English pronunciation, you can download my free 30-page essential pronunciation guide at growyourenglish.com to get started right now. You'll also find details on my website about my personalized coaching and online pronunciation courses, all designed to help you speak clearly, confidently, and comfortably in English.